What was the worst mistake you ever made? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I worked at a marine mammal rescue center in Alaska. It could be really fun and rewarding, but the work itself was anything but glamorous. During the training, we were told emphatically, when approaching a rehabbing sea lion from the front, you have to hold your breath until you can get to the side. Their breath will knock you out. We laughed, but the teacher said, "Oh, I'm not kidding." Should have taken it more seriously. My first week there, I approach a sea lion we're rehabbing, and when I'm about 5 feet away, it opened its mouth wider than my head and let out a 4-second long belch, as sea lions are known to do. I immediately fell to the ground puking. Couldn't think straight for 2 minutes and felt nauseous most of the rest of the day and had to go home early. Still feel sick thinking of it. Story 2. Not watching a movie with my dad before he died from cancer. My dad was months into his chemo treatments at this point, and he just asked me one day if I wanted to watch some old movies with him for a bit. I declined and said I needed to work on school stuff. I was living at home at the time, and I was taking about 15 hours of classes, so I was generally busy, but not then. It tore me apart to see my dad that way. The drugs had been rough on him, and it pained me to see him like that. My dad passed maybe a month or 2 later, and it is still to this day my biggest regret. We both love movies, and I would give anything to go back and watch anything with him. I still randomly have moments of despair thinking about it, and I know he would not want me to continue beating myself up, but it's hard. Don't have regrets like me. Spend those precious moments with your loved ones. Story 3. Pet sitting for a pet fox. I pet sit for a living and came across an opportunity to get 10 times the money one weekend by pet sitting for a pet fox while the owners were on vacation. It was super cute, but now it's a year later, and my car still smells like fox. No idea how that's even possible. The fox was never in the car. Can't take friends on rides anymore. Story 4. I 38 chickens by pure mistake. I was 10 and wanted to let my parents know how many chickens we had. So I started placing them in a barrel as I counted them. At some point, I noticed it was way quieter and dumped the barrel over to see what was going on. I didn't understand at the time that stacking things in an enclosed space creates a breathing issue. So now we had all these dead chickens, including our beloved Birdzilla, intersex I believe. After attempting chicken CPR, which obviously didn't work, I came into my house bawling that I was a chicken and needed to go to jail. Once my parents fully understood what was going on, they laughed so hard and said my punishment was to bury the chickens and I was punishing myself hard enough, and my dad explained how O2 worked. Story 5. Spending 11 years in retail seemed like a great idea at the time, better and less toxic than my previous seasonal job. I was dumb and believed that giving it my all and being devoted to the company would take me places. Got passed over for numerous promotions, got screwed over by friends who didn't care who they had to step on to get themselves ahead, and ended up getting fired on a technicality over a decade in because a company worker was gunning for my job. In retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me work-wise. I had been stuck in a rut and my self-esteem had been so beat down I was convinced I didn't deserve better. Thank goodness I ended up in a job I love with great people. I just regret the time wasted. Story 6. Sought mental help. I got depressed because my operation was postponed time and again. Felt suicidal and was admitted into a psych ward. Pumped full of antidepressants that had a side effect of making the operation harder to get BMI limits. Doctor who never saw me, never talked to me, never saw or talked to my primary doctor decided that because I was so afraid of the operation being canceled, the only possible way to proceed was to cancel said operation. So my plea for help and seeking mental help resulted in the destruction of my life. Story 7. An ex crashed my beloved car. They were only supposed to be going down the street to the grocery store. They called me saying they had just crashed my car on the thruway and that they were abandoning it. Found out later that they were going to pick up drugs downtown. They didn't have a license. I was at home watching their kid. I had my neighbor, who was a family friend of theirs, drive me to pick them up. I told the police I was the one who was driving and left the car there because I was scared. Everything cleared up for me. No points on my license, but my car got totaled, and my ex never fully paid me back. I should have reported the car stolen and got my ex sent to jail. I was dumb kid. Story 8. Letting him manipulate me into believing the things he did to me were normal and okay. That it was normal to continue to harass and push me to have sex with him even after I said no the first time. Not leaving when he forced me. Not listening when he told me to my face the kind of person he was, thinking that I was somehow different because he loved me, so he'd never hurt me. It was my first relationship, and I was a dumb, romantic teenage girl who never conceived that a boyfriend would hurt me like that, repeatedly, over 4 years. I thought it was normal, that it was what relationships were like, that I had to put out even when I didn't want to because that's what good girlfriends do, and I wanted his approval so badly because I loved him. I think the most insidious part was I never even realized what he'd done to me until a few years afterward. Never again. Story 9. Getting a divorce by way of an affair. I thought the grass would be greener on the other side. Turns out that it was only different. Now, 8 years on, I'm living in a crappy apartment. My child rarely talks to me, and I've lost all of my pre-divorce friends and wealth, house savings, stability, etc. All because the person I had the affair with was more mentally and sexually interesting and compatible. I thought having those things would be worth everything I lost, but in the end they weren't. I should have stayed and figured out myself in my marriage. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Story 10. I had a full-ride scholarship to play baseball at a smaller southeastern college. I decided to listen to my girlfriend and not go to stay with her. She wanted to be together forever. She ended up getting pregnant. Mind you, I was 19 at the time. I proposed to her in front of her family on Christmas. From there, I enrolled in the state college and picked up a small overnight job. She enrolled in the community college. Since I was the only one with the vehicle, I drove her to and from class and appointments. I guess that and spending time with her wasn't enough. While pregnant, she ended up cheating on me with someone from her class. Never got the courage to try out for the minor league, and now I'm well past prime age. Shame on me. Story 11. I let go someone who was really good for me because of chronic depression and insecurities, and now here I am, alone because of it. She was the kindest, smartest, and most motivated woman I've ever known. We dated when she moved to town for a summer internship before her senior year of college. We started out telling each other we were just hanging out. Nothing serious since she was going to be moving to another state after graduation. We had a great summer, and I ended up visiting her at school a few times in the fall. When the time came for her to move is when we realized we both caught feelings for each other and confessed our love. She asked me to move with her, and I said I couldn't move that far away from my friends and family. But the truth was, I was afraid I'd hold her back from reaching her potential, and was afraid my anxiety and depression would end up destroying our relationship. That was 20-ish years ago, and I've regretted that decision ever since. I've yet to find a partner that has made me feel as cared for and loved as she did. Story 12. Got involved with a woman from work. Ended up in a whirlwind 6-month relationship. It was toxic, she was controlling, and I felt trapped. She stopped taking contraceptives without telling me, got pregnant, and I knew I had to leave. It's a scumbag thing to do, but she was getting me into serious debt. I got a message saying she got what she wanted. She knew I wanted a vasectomy and no more kids. I have 2 already. She pushed and pushed me enough until I cut off all contact, and 4 suicide attempts and 2 YRs in a secure hospital quickly followed. Lost my career and everyone around me. Had to rebuild my life from the absolute beginning, including moving home. She's back with her ex-husband and are playing happy families. Told I'd have my legs broken if I ever tried to see the child. They are a very rough family. I've not seen her for 4 years, and it petrifies me that she will turn up out of the blue. I still pay child maintenance every month. I'm trying to start a new career but keep myself isolated and hidden. I don't have a social life or friends now. Fun times. Story 13. When I was 14, maybe, I went to use the bathroom like any normal time. I pissed, wiped, flushed, washed my hands, and walked back to my room. Now this toilet has a habit of making that noise toilets make after you flush, but for about 2 minutes longer than normal. Nothing ever happened, till that night when my brother came running into my room telling me the whole living room and hallways was flooding and the toilet is overflowing and won't stop running. I walked out my room to see my mom freaking out. Now, for some context, my family is lower class, middle class. My parents worked and they owned the home, so we were lucky to have a roof to live under, but we never had extra money to go out to eat, or go to movies, or even vacations. We always ate very basic and easy meals so my parents could afford the home and bills. I never even left my home state till I was 16, almost 17. My father also has a massive spending problem, which leaves money very tight for my family. This was almost 9 years ago, mind you. Seeing the way my mom was reacting, seeing her crying and on her knees and begging for life to just stop being for her, left a permanent image in my head. The only other time I've seen my mom cry like this was Christmas time, December 23, 2023, and that was being my dad left a suicide note and took off, and we thought he killed himself for hours. My mother was broken, and that moment will forever haunt me. He's still alive, found him in time. Now the whole house was soaked in flooding, and my mom was freaking trying to turn the water off and get the shop vac to suck up the water and crying and saying how she doesn't know where she's gonna get the money to fix this, and trying to figure out what bills she can push to pay for this. Yeah, I never told her or fessed up to it. They think it was older brother and I let them think it. It still haunts me and makes me want to cry thinking of her reaction to it. Story 14. I was in a shared house while at uni with a friend and a couple of her friends. I had a lot of mental health problems and had come straight out of 16 months in hospital to uni, which she knew and she told her friends. She had her own MH struggles and understood a good amount, and so did her BF. Then the person I thought of as my little sister killed herself told me her plans in advance. She was under section, legally forced treatment in hospital, but had overnight leave. I called the hospital and they just got mad with me as I was a former patient and it was inappropriate for me to ring. I have never felt more helpless in my life. I developed bipolar instead of straight depression. I got hit by a car. A week later, one of my friends died from asthma attack. Then 2 days after that, one of my closest friends of 10 years died of nutritional collapse. 2 months later, I was cutting myself and genuinely accidentally went too deep, creating a scene while I got a towel before calling an ambulance, which obviously scared the out of all my housemates. But the worst was 3 months later. My PTSD was absolutely horrendous and my best friend came to visit me. Thank God everyone was out the house at the time, because she died in the middle of the night in my room. Coroner ruled misadventure, her prescribed meds and alcohol. She frequently got drunk and took her meds. Thing is, this time she had got drunk, and I'd been the one to literally feed her meds before putting her to bed. I'd administered the stuff that killed her, and it f***ed me up so badly. I was a total basket case after, bearing in mind I was 3/4 of the way there before, and that's why she visited. I really badly, severely traumatized my friend, and I hate that I did that. I didn't do it for shits and giggles. I've looked her up online. She moved unis and graduated, but have never reached out and never will, as I know I will re-traumatize her, and I'm not that selfish. But I hope so much that she has been able to move on from the damage I did to her. Story 15. I've been fairly lucky in my life, so genuinely it's the same answer to some other questions. I chose the wrong girl. I'm not a player by any means, but I was seeing 2 girls and eventually decided to get serious with one. We were together for about a year, and then she left me, moved away, and never really spoke to me again. The other was so much better for me. We had more interests in common, we had similar life goals, but instead of talking to her, I made the incredibly smart decision to just ghost her essentially. Bit awkward when we worked together. I know now what I did wrong, and if I ever got the chance, I'd do it differently. But I won't. I'm sure she's happy never talking to me again, and I really hope she is happy. Meanwhile, I'm older and more emotionally mature, and secure that whatever happens in life, I'll treat people better. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.